just wanted to know, did the unicorn tag add more pressure? Did you feel that, you had investor expectations, you have lofty valuations, and you had the profitability and everything all matching at the same time? So do you think the unicorn tag added to the pressure?
Not really. Not really. I don't think the unicorn tax adds pressure on a day-to-day basis, or I think it's that event when you become a unicorn or when you get compared. I don't think it's a daily sort of thing. Yes, valuations can add pressure, but I think for us, it's about stakeholders. The stakeholders who are there, yes. If you have external stakeholders in your company, that will have added pressure for you to eventually explain the situation to all. I think that adds pressure, but I don't think that would add pressure whether you're valued at $100 million or whether you're valued at $3 billion. I don't think that is subject to valuations or that is subject to
you were more in the media scrutiny, so to speak of.
Correct. I think that is because you are a startup. I think what happens is that startups get, so if you want all the accolades, you have to take the brickbat sort of a thing. So you get all the, so when you raise any money or you do anything good, you get all the media releases. So you get it also when something bad happens. I think that's part of the journey.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think exactly. I think you guys love us a lot, right? Like
We do.
all of us, yeah.
Yes.
So if you see, unicorn by concept is imaginary, right? Unrealistic, unconventional. So I think anything which is unrealistic and unconventional, people generally happen to look at it under a microscope. Okay, hey, what's happening, right? So there was a time when, 2021, there was enough equity to spoil the market, right? The valuations were soaring. There was a lot of dry powder in the ecosystem because for almost a year there was no investments happening. Right?
Yes.
So the money was chasing the ideas. So at that time, the kind of valuation spurt up happened. I think that got us, not us, but many institutions, many businesses, a lot of attention. And as you get the good part, as Shavik said, right? So if there is any of such news, like I do remember, there were about 93 news articles on us, right? 93. We still, as in one of my team members still has got that.
Okay.
We have kept it, right? And I think in B2B businesses, see, we are a young company developing with our processes, understanding compliances and everything. And we have to understand that a lot of business happened during the COVID period, right? Where the processes were not involved, where there were a lot of the vendors and the supplies happening without we working online, without we working physically.
Yeah.
Right? So I think what happens is that during that time, even if there was lapses, like by the time you correct it, right, you're already under the microscope. And in India, I think it does happen. Like many of the business houses have come under tax department scrutiny. But I think the kind of attention, not only us and even in coming time, any of the unicorns would enjoy, would be slightly more. I do remember during the same time there was Hirandani's, there were Hero Motors, a couple of large institutions. But I think we were the favorite ones.
Okay,
right?
You are the favorite ones, and I also want to understand what kind of conversations are you having with your investors right now, what has changed? Like he spoke about, there was a spurt in valuations. Now VCs, everybody is realizing course corrections, everyone's realizing profits. I mean, of course, you've been profitable, but what has changed? What has changed in the conversation?
No, I think what has changed in the conversations is that most investors today, see, investing for them, what as a startup founder you have to realize is that you are a portfolio of one. You as a startup founder have only one company you can look up to. As an investor, they can have 100 and they can have a hit rate and they can decide, okay, 5 out of these 100 make money, that's good enough for them. You have only one.
Yes.
You don't have that luxury, right? So you are not, irrespective of lofty valuations in 2021 or a funding winter in 2022, you have to align yourself to building what you're building because you don't have those. You don't have a hit rate of 5 to 10%. You have to have a hit rate of 100% to survive. So I think for us, not much has changed in day to day. Investors, yes, they have gone out. Some of them who were very aggressive are no longer aggressive. But there are obviously other pools of capital you can tap into, and they will one the day we will at the benefit of a profitable startup is you can raise when you want to when the markets are good and not need to raise every day.
I think generally the appreciation of being profitable has increased, right? So I do remember, we were bootstrapped for 3 years, from 2017 until 2019. And we couldn't raise capital because every investor said, why do you need capital? You can go to the banks and raise it, right? And at some point we used to think that, is it a crime that is it a mistake that we have been profitable, right? So we have been through that journey, but
Okay.
yes, now I think the appreciation of being profitable, the appreciation of concentrating on unit economics has started making more sense, and generally because it's on the ecosystem, right? So I think it gets a lot of pressure, and the best ones will win.
All right. So the best ones will win. Companies that have strong fundamentals will have no dearth of capital, is what you're trying to say. Again, the rules of the game have changed. The way consumers interact with brands today has changed. We all know about the big Bharat opportunity that is there. If you could elaborate on how you're, planning to tap into this big market. You're already aggressive on, you've started very aggressively expanding on offline stores as well. But will you be looking at the Bharat opportunity as well?
I think we are already looking at the Bharat of today. For that matter, around 40 to 50% of our business comes from there. So it's a very, very critical market for us. The consumers are evolving, their needs are evolving. The concept around individualism, where a consumer wants products for him rather than for the whole family, the way it used to be earlier, that shift is changing. And because of that, sometimes we feel that the definition of tier 2, tier 3 might not be as strong, but these cities now have consumers who have the ability to pay. Bharat is changing, and we need to all listen to that. And the most important thing, right, at least reaching out directly to these consumers, we've realized that there are no geographical boundaries the way they used to be earlier,
Absolutely.
right? At least through online, you can reach
Thanks
to
to-
every
yeah.
consumer, be it India, be it Bharat, deliver them your products if they are looking for one. And since that system has evolved so much, there is no reason why one shouldn't be looking at that.
All right, okay. I also want to talk to you about your house of brand strategy. You've acquired 3 companies. You've got an army of your own. You've got the Derma company. You've got Aqualogica and Ayug. If you could elaborate on, because, a lot of brands are doing that, creating this whole house of brand strategy. What is unique about yours?
Ours works. No, honestly, it's not a new strategy, right? I mean, if you look at Unilever, L'Oreal,
Yeah.
right? Any of these companies.
A lot of startups
right?
are now also doing that, yeah.
This is a basic strategy of using your corporate strength, right, to actually get a higher wallet share of the consumer that you're targeting. Right? Our core market is India. India's consumer has diverse interests. There might be a consumer who wants a natural product. There might be a consumer who wants a scientific skincare product, which is active-based. There's a consumer who wants a salon-like hair care. On the other hand, there is a consumer who wants long-lasting makeup and does not care about naturals. Right? Now, this is the Indian consumer. And we want to make sure that we become the largest beauty and personal care company in India. And if I want to do that, and I have to provide different propositions at different price points to these consumers. Right? And there genuinely has been dearth of brand builders and creators in the market. Right?
Yeah.
We would like to be the one who fills the gap.
All right, okay. I want to talk to you about the cross-border opportunity, the expansion plans, if you could elaborate on what the future focus is right now.
So I think for cross-border opportunity, I think it's a opportunity almost every manufacturing company in India is sitting on. And as we as a contract manufacturing startup are at the cusp of sort of unlocking it. I think we've had PLI schemes launched across sectors. There's going to be a China plus one strategy. That plus now as India, whether we grab that opportunity or that how much of that opportunity goes to other countries, is that actually is the pie is going to increase for India. It's the question is how much of it is going to increase. The energy crisis globally,
Yes.
the way the prices have stocked up. So I think we are sitting on a cusp of opportunity, and we have created that platform where contract manufacturers in India can service global clients. Today, a large part of our revenue flows from exports. We are enabling a lot of manufacturers in India to export globally. So for us, the opportunity is large for us to actually go out there and take Indian products and service global requirements. At the same time, for us, what is very critical for us to understand is we are really working with what you would call Bharat, where we are actually working with a driver who's driving a truck every day,
Yes.
to a labor operator who's manning a machine. And we need to build, what we are trying to build is a platform that makes their lives easier. So we are not here servicing only, we're not here to service only the creamy layer of the consumers. When you and I walk out here and we see a coastal road getting built, we see a bridge getting built and a road getting built, we are servicing that driver who's getting that material there. We are making their lives easier, and we are really proud not only to take their efforts and take those products and take them global, but to actually really be part of building India. I think that is what we as a startup really want to focus on. We want to really be part of this, building India into what it needs to be over the next couple of decades.
All right, there are lots of plans, but I want to understand there's a lot of push from the government, lots of things happening in the ecosystem. We've all witnessing the startup growth story, but what more needs to be done? Are we quite there?
I think, see, if you ask me, are we quite there? We are not. I think there's obviously a continuous room for improvement, right? So we are not there at any point of time. We'll not be there. But yes, today we have got the right policy making. We've got the right element of stability to compete, to attract capital even in these situations, to enable today if a lot of founders today are still getting capital for building their businesses, that's completely different from the global scenario. We are macroeconomically level, at least much better off than many countries right now, the way they're operating. So I think, yes, a government has done a lot. The government is, even at an infra level, if you look at it, there's a huge push in, because India is infra deficient, there's a huge push in building that up. So I think the government is doing a lot. Obviously, we are not there. We're not the perfect position yet. We're not in the perfect country, obviously. But the fact remains that there are incremental improvements happening, and I think we're in the right track to sort of build it up. And every time we discuss policy level with anyone, we understand that there is an overall thought process to build it up. I mean, I think what they've done with banks and NPCI and UPI is extraordinarily helped starters, right? So I mean, that's a small step. But for us, maybe it's a small thing at the B2B, but even B2C, D2C companies.
So what is your big demand? Like you said, there are improvements.
I think exports. I think we really need to enable manufacturers in India to export. If you look at other countries, the way from financing point of view to insurance point of view, the way they have that stack built to enable their local manufacturers to export globally is phenomenal. And if we want to grab that opportunity, you just need to look at the percentage of exports to a GDP of Vietnam, compare that to India, and you will see that we are still lacking far behind that. We are doing things, but I think that we still need to do a lot for us to be up there and actually be a beneficiary of this China Plus One strategy.
Okay, that's the B2B demand. What about you guys, D2C? Where do you think we're lacking? What is the big wish list? What's not happening? Where are we stuck?
No, I wouldn't say what's not happening. I think we've moved a fair bit, right, in the last couple of decades. And, but if there was one thing that I would say we need to keep doing and need to keep doing even better is impetus on the economic growth, right? It would be a combination of a lot of things, right? From ensuring we become the +1 production hub, which is going to generate a lot more jobs, and that's another thing. Infrastructure investments and the right monetary and fiscal policies. Right? I think there needs to be a lot of economic activity and a lot of focus on growth for the next couple of decades. And we're just poised to win. And we just need to ensure we don't lose the game ourselves.
All right, we're poised to win, and you guys are not just founders but investors as well. I want to understand your investment philosophy. What do you look for in a startup? How do you make that bet?
I think my investment philosophy is very, very simple. I love to bet on people more than ideas to at least begin with, because when we started out, our first investor betted on us more than the idea. He said, "Tum log achhe ho, to tum figure out kuch na kuch to kar hi loge."
Okay.
And that sort of gave us a lot more confidence, right? That if the people are good, they will build something which is going to give fruits. So one is that. Other than that, I think till the time the idea is solving a large problem within the, the economy, and it has been validated that the problem exists and it's there to be solved for, that's the second thing that I look for.
All right, so the people and the gap that's there in the market. Also, I want to also talk to you about your omni-channel play, if you could elaborate on plans on that front. Like I mentioned earlier, there's aggressive, offline focus. What's more in store? What's in the pipeline?
I think we've always followed the consumer, and we've listened to the consumer. And even our distribution strategy has been in line with that, right? As brands grow, their demand and awareness grows, right? They need to be available at different points of distribution where the consumer expects you to be, right? Which is where we started our offline journey about 2 years back. Now we're in about 50,000 plus stores, right? Across 200 plus cities. It's not just metro focused, because we've honestly always been, we believed in no racism in geography, right? So the more we can reach out to the right valuated distribution outlets, that's the objective, right? And now we've also started opening our own exclusive brand outlets, right? Because what we realized was, with the kind of portfolio that Mamaearth has, right, bringing it to life in a multi-brand store might not be possible. Right? So our exclusive brand stores are bringing not just the portfolio to life, but our purpose, like, for example, a plastic recycling bin where you can come and submit the bottles, or the number of trees that we have planted and how many have that store contributed, right, being mentioned there, and creating, that aura of how the relationship that you just made with us, right, made a difference not just to you and your family's health, but also to the community that you live in. So those are some of the things.
Okay, all right. I want to hear about your future focus plans, and also one advice that you would give to all B2B founders there, or perhaps people who want to enter into the space. So first your future plans, and then perhaps that one.
So I think at Infra Market, we have already started diversifying from a B2B company to retail space. Yeah. We have already opened our franchisee stores, right? And we are looking at scale. So in India, if you see, as you build out your home, right, you typically have to walk into multiple stores. For tiles and bath fittings, you may have to move to one store, for electrical another, right? So what we are trying to build out is everything under one roof, right? Can you walk in and give a complete range to a consumer, be it an architect, be it an interior designer, be it a consumer, right? Can you as a company get a larger wallet share from your consumer, right? Can you give him a seamless experience? Can you drive the experience by technology, by digitalizing, right? Okay. So I think for us, retail is the next big thing that we are looking, right? Because as we have already building out the supply chain. So once you have a strong supply chain, it makes sense that from B2B, you start looking at all other networks and start catering for the wider reach.
Okay, yeah. That's good advice, and good job that you've done. Before I let you all go, one final question. You've got over $1 billion valuation, you've got a swelling top line, a positive bottom line. When do we see you listing? When do we see a profitable unicorn listing? Will it be by end of this year or 2023? Come on, Varun, give us a timeline.
So hopefully soon is all
hopefully
that I can say.
Hopefully soon is not a timeline. Will it be by end of this year?
No, it will not be by end of this year.
Okay, all right. Listing on the cards?
Not as fast as you're asking for us, but I think listing is just a start of the journey, right? So yes. I think we need a lot of real fundamentals clear before we list. So I think it's far away from where your timelines are, but okay. Yes, it's on the cards. Not this year or not anytime this year, yeah. Okay, not this year, not next year. Yeah, all right. Thank you, panelists, for joining us. We've completely run out of time, and many thanks for coming here and joining us. Thank you all for being such a fabulous audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Varun, Ghazal, Aditya, Souvik, Shruti, thank you very much to all of you. We really enjoyed that. And I'm sure there are many lessons that startup founders in this room and in the larger ecosystem, as well as executives from conventional businesses, can take away from this. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to felicitate our first set of Forbes India Tycoons of tomorrow for the year 2021-22. May I invite Ashish Gupta, Brand Director at Volkswagen Passenger Cars India, and Brian Carvalho, Editor Forbes India, to give away the first set of awards. Kairav and Soumya Engineer are our first tycoons tonight. They're building upon Astral's legacy by foraying into new categories and driving exponential growth for the next decade. Please put your hands together and welcome Kairav Engineer, VP Business Development at Astral. Congratulations, Kairav. For our next tycoon, exciting is boring. Unicorn status is boring. A staggering spike in revenue that his company boasts of is mundane. Being that rare, profitable unicorn in a sea of red is, well, how you should do business. What tickles Aditya Sharda then is the business to retail and private label play he's building with his friend turned co-founder Souvik Sengupta. An eye on the prize is what makes them tycoons of tomorrow. Please join me in welcoming on stage once again the co-founders of Infra.Market, Aditya Sharda and Souvik Sengupta. Congratulations, guys. Oops. Well, you're in the infra business, so thank you. Okay, our next winner has a simple motto. As long as she gets to act, the medium or language doesn't matter. And it's helping her make her mark. With popular web shows like Girl in the City and movies like Karva, Chopsticks and Tribanga under her belt, she's been pushing the envelope with her diverse choice of projects. Please welcome one half of the heart and soul of Little Things, Mithila Palkar. Congratulations, and thank you very much, Ashish and Brian, for joining us. Okay, now, India's dynamic economy is home to decades-old family businesses, and then there are new age startups. So being a second generation or third or fourth gen entrepreneur is no easy task. You have a strong legacy to preserve and build upon, a family way of working, and transformation of any kind can be very hard. Being a startup founder, on the other hand, means agility, flexibility, innovation, all of those are your mantras. But both have their ups and downs and a plethora of opportunities and challenges. So our upcoming panel will have two startup entrepreneurs and one next generation family business executive compare and contrast their experiences and mistakes that they can and cannot afford to make. And what if they had a do-over? Would the startup founder rather choose to be in a family business, or would the second generation leader prefer to go out on their own? Please put your hands together and welcome Kairav Engineer, VP Business Development at Astral, who's a second generation entrepreneur, Ashwin Damera, founder, Eruditus, and Sudhakar Adappa, founder and CEO of Commerceify, to represent first-generation founders. I'd also like to invite Nisha Podar, editor M&A at CNBC TV 18.
Thank you so much, Sumaira. And a very good evening to all of you. It's going to be an interesting discussion. Would you rather be a founder or a first or a third generation or a second generation family business owner? Well, let's talk about, first of all, I'm sorry for this. So let's begin by talking about one of the tenets of any business, which is the hunger, the fire in the belly. Ashwin, would you say that there is a differentiator between a first-gen entrepreneur or a family businessman when it comes to this particular aspect?
My experience is a first-generation entrepreneur, so I'll speak for first-generation entrepreneurs. I won't presume to talk about family businesses.
Yes.
But as a first-generation entrepreneur, everything that you're doing rides on that one company, right? So let me give an example. If you're Bhavish Agarwal and you started Ola Electric, and your first product catches fire. You may also be Tata Motors with the Nano, which also catches fire. But one of those founders' ass is literally on fire. Because if that company goes down, that's entire legacy, entire hard work. They're investors you depend on. You don't have a conglomerate to draw cash on, etc. So I do believe that you are more hungry. It's riskier. It's kind of like an immigrant in a country, right? You have to make it work.
Right.
But like I said, I speak for first-generation entrepreneurs. I can't presume that second generation, third generation are not hungry.
But Ashwin, over there, I would say that not many companies, even if family businesses, have a conglomerate kind of structure. They may have just one product as well, and they can also be in a do-die situation as well.
Like I said.
Right. All right. So point taken, but Kairav, tell us about your experience. A lot of people envy the second and third generation family business owners. But I'm sure it also comes with great expectations.
So most people think second generation, third generation entrepreneurs as spoiled brats, like, born in money, free to do whatever they want. They don't have anyone to hold them accountable for, but that's not the case. I categorize second generation entrepreneurs as there are two types of them. One is you are born into money. You've been raised with people around you, with, servants, maids. You've been born into money. You've been born into sort of a legacy. And you have a very different view of your business. Then you have a second generation which basically sees their parents slog it out and sees the ups and downs of their parents as they build their empire. And, I call them generation 1.5 because most of the times they value the efforts that their parents have put into the business,
right,
and have seen their parents struggle, often have grown up without one of the parents around.
Yes.
Because they're very busy building their business. They already have a lot going on in their life. So it's very different, depends on what kind of a second generation you are.
right.
I belong to generation 1.5. Okay, I've seen my dad slog it out.
Yes.
We were bankrupt in 2002. We got a notice to evacuate our home on Diwali 2002. I was 14 years old. So I've seen him slog it out. I've seen him struggle. I've seen him fail.
Yes.
We got listed in 2007 when I was 19 years old. So I've seen the whole journey.
Right.
And, I value the journey, and I share the same hunger for growth, and I share the same passion for the business as he does.
All right, so great story there, Kairav. Let me also get Sudhakar's view on this. So Sudhakar, a lot of people think that the family business owners have a launch pad already ready, right? But I'm sure that there are a lot of good aspects or benefits of having your own freedom when you are a founder of your own company.
Well, my shoe size fits me just fine. I don't have a large shoes to fill. If you are a second generation entrepreneur, you have large shoes to fill in all probability. Otherwise, you don't even call it a second generation because the first generation would have failed, right? Yeah. So in that sense, it weighs slightly on your shoulders. You don't have a legacy to live upon. So you are free to fall, get up, and then get again running. You don't have legacy issues, as you call it. So I would say it is what I call a founder's freedom.
Right.
The freedom to experiment, the freedom not being afraid to fail,
Right.
not having to live up to the expectations of people around you. That is, I think, is the advantage of first generation entrepreneur. The second generation might have an edge in terms of raising the resources because they have a track record and the family is more tuned towards it.
Yes.
They have seen, they were risk takers in that generation, so they've seen the pros and cons of that, so they would be more aware of it. Unlike a first generation entrepreneur who come from middle class backgrounds, where there is an element of scare in the family because no one has ventured into the woods, right?
Right. So risk-taking ability, that's a very important aspect of any business. Ashwin, jump in on this particular aspect. You think that the risk ability is stunted when you're all alone, you're a lone ranger?
Well, I'll speak from personal experience. So I just finished my MBA. I was coming back to India. I was going to start this, my first startup. And my parents, they were professionals. They were not entrepreneurs, not from business per se. They were like, why can't you be like your brother, take up a full-time job, pay off your student loan? Why have all of this? And in their mind, they were envisaging debt collection agents standing outside the front door, knocking on their door, etc. So risk-taking ability, it was a lonely, solitary journey.
Yes.
But in some sense, what I had, though, was the freedom to do what I want.
Yes.
My first startup was in travel. My second startup was in education. I don't know if I have it in me to do a third one, but it could probably be in some other field. I'm not bound or constrained by preconceived notions that my family imposes on me. So like everything in life, pros and cons.
But what about the finances, the entire resources, the infrastructure already ready, and if you have the interest to just build on that?
You're asking this at a very good time because just last week, there was a large industrial house that said, Ashwin, we'll give you 2,500 crores, come and build our education business. This is like fifth generation, but very large
There's a headline story going, by the way.
I don't know about that. And then I came out of the meeting, declined, so there's no headline, but said, oh my God, I wish somebody gave that to me when I started 10 years back.
Yeah.
But my family was asking me to take a full-time job.
Right, I'll have a side chat with you because that same company can be going to another company which is facing a lot of, negative press right now, and they may be also ready.
You know the name of the company?
No. Okay.
That is scary.
So jokes aside, but Kairav, tell us about one particular aspect, which is the sensitivity that goes into the business because you're working with the same family members, and then there are emotions and relationships to be maintained when you go back home. Is that a very fine balance and a very tough burden on the youngest member of the family in the business?
See, whenever you have multiple family members involved in a business, there's going to be clash of egos. And one needs to understand if there are differences at work. Me and my dad fight all the time. So if there are differences at work, you leave those differences at work and you go back home and then you enjoy time with your family. The day you start bringing your differences at work, you bring them home and then it affects your family life, is when you go back to the drawing board and then you sit with your family council and then you decide where to draw the line, who to allocate what, and how to restructure power and how to manage the hierarchy of the organization. People who don't, family businesses who don't align that, and things change, okay? You have first generation, second, third, fourth, things change. More and more family members keep, joining the business. So this thing needs to be worked upon on a regular basis, every decade or so that, your business is functioning smoothly without any sort of, politics or any sort of differences between the, promoters.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a tough one to really manage. Sudhakar, what are the main challenges apart from the risk and that one decision of venturing all alone as a founder? What has been the toughest and the biggest challenge you think you have faced as a founder?
I think the first and foremost challenge is the mindset, because resources, when you are an entrepreneur, you know how to hustle and you know how to manage things to be more resourceful as such. But I think the biggest challenge is the mindset.
Yes.
The atmosphere around you is not very conducive for entrepreneurship. You know, have you ever seen a person in India putting that failed venture in his resume? I don't think so. They say there's a gap or something, or took a sabbatical. You cover it up with fancy words and all this stuff, right? So I think the society at large is very risk averse, and they see these fancy headlines of these unicorns and all this stuff, and they forget the toil in building the company. And mind you, when I started my entrepreneurial journey 18 years back, straight out of IIM Calcutta, the ecosystem hasn't really evolved. The venture capital is much nascent these days.
Yes.
And remember, in those days, the word businessman and entrepreneur were used synonymously. There is no difference between a businessman and an entrepreneur as such. So I think that is the biggest challenge. Everything else can be managed.
All right, so great you mentioned venture capital. Ashwin, do you think that there is a lack of guidance also for the founders, and that already existing legacy mindset and intel which comes in a business house, that really lacks? And we have seen the pitfalls of that as well. The lessons have been learned by the startup industry in terms of even diluting their equity at a very early stage in the last wave that we saw.
Well, definitely so. But that is also kind of balanced by the scale of ambition, right? I think you may sometimes see in family businesses the aversion to dilute, aversion to take external capital, because then now you have not just the family, but a third and a fourth voice at the table. And those dynamics sometimes, I mean, they can be navigated, they tend to be challenged. I remember a conversation, I was fundraising, it was in Bangalore, a well-known firm. For the first 7 years of Eruditus' existence, we were profitable. Then we raised venture capital money, and then we were never been profitable again. That's a joke, guys. You can laugh. But the point is, when I met them to raise capital for the first time, which was after 7 years, they asked me this question: are you a promoter or an entrepreneur? So I was a little puzzled. I was like, what's the difference? They said, no, you built a company. It's gone from 0 to about 100 crores, 0 to 100 crores. It's profitable. You've not raised outside capital. You're not an entrepreneur, you're a promoter. And see, that mindset is something that I think has changed significantly. But there's a lot more work to be done in going there. That an entrepreneur somehow has to take money, dilute. I mean, take that great example, Zerodha, et cetera, which I think are breaking that mindset.
Yes. All right, not just in equity dilution, good that you raise this difference between entrepreneur and promoter. Do you agree with the view that even though startup founders are new age company founders and fairly young and new in mindset, have also in the past made some mistakes and behaved like very old age promoters as well?
Every startup founder has made mistakes. Why only new age and younger? I have made mistakes. Last 12 months, if I look back, there's so many I wish I didn't do. So every starter, everybody in this room, as great as we all may be, have all made mistakes. The difference is how fast you learn and how cheap or costly that mistake is. You know, there was a famous Stanford professor who said, look, if I have a first-time entrepreneur with a great idea, but I have a failed second-time entrepreneur, 100 times out of 100, I'll invest in the second-time entrepreneur. Why? Because they have the wisdom of failure. Failure is a great great teacher.
Yes, and that's another point even Sudhakar mentioned, the ability to fail and bounce back.
As a first-generation entrepreneur, you can learn so much from your failure at somebody else's money. As second-generation entrepreneur, it's your own family's money.
Oh, that's a free ride. So Kairav, this is a very important aspect. You know, you need to have your own learnings with failures. Do you think that the ability to fail is now restricted in family businesses? You're not allowed to have any failure because there are just so many decision makers.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. If that was the case, a lot of family businesses that have gone belly up wouldn't have. See, the thing is that it all depends on the first generation who's driving the business, right? How much of a free hand do they give you? That
was exactly my question.
Yeah. So, you know, there are people, like my father doesn't question, you know, whenever I take a decision or whenever I want to do something new or think about something out of the box. He always supports the idea.
Yeah.
But then you have a lot of rigid first generation promoters who are scared to fail, okay? And I understand why they are scared to fail, because they've built the business and they've invested so much behind it, and maybe they might have seen a few small failures growing that business, and it generally makes them scared to lose it all.
Yes.
And they somehow feel that the next generation, their kids, grandkids, are not well equipped to take decisions, and they just can't let it go. And when that happens, you raise a second, third generation of promoters who've never taken a decision for themselves. And come one day when the first generation promoter passes away or retires or whatnot,
Yes.
and then you have these 40, 50-year-old second generation people trying
Yes.
to run a business who don't know what it takes to, take a decision or to fail or to take a
Succession
risk.
planning and creating the next gen leaders, that could be one of the constraints. But I want to come to an important point here. As the standards of corporate governance is really getting heightened in India, the investors want to look at it. Even the equity market participants now want to look at it. So it's not just that you want a PE investor, that you have to have great corporate governance. Do you think that the scrutiny and the burden to really prove yourself has really gone up in the future generations of family businesses?
Yeah, so not only your investors, your shareholders or your potential shareholders, but also your employees, your family, people around you, they're always scrutinizing you, and they always see, what is this guy up to? How does he work? What decisions does he make? How does he make them? Does he have the same, decision-making abilities that his father has or his mother has? So you always, under scrutiny, and it's kind of, when you are a second generation promoter, especially in the corporate governance standards of today, you always have so many people you are answerable to, and you are always something to prove to everyone around you, because it's not just about leading a company anymore. They're not looking for leaders, they're looking for people who can
Yes.
lead well.
Yes.
There were leaders in family businesses, but now they're thinking about, is the family business, is the second generation, third generation able to lead well? And that is the key thing.
All right, so not as rosy a picture when it comes to the next generation in a family business. All right, and so Ashwin, the final question, freedom versus the infrastructure that is already provided, or the launch pad which is easily available. What would you rather choose even today?
It's a flawed question, because truly, if you're born into a family business,
You don't have a choice.
you don't have a choice. And today, as a first-time entrepreneur, how do I become a second-generation family business? So you're dealt a hand. I always believe this is like life. You're dealt a hand, play to the best of your ability.
Well
Freedom
said.
and all is all faltu ka discussion hai. What you have, you make the best of it.
All right, well said. Kairav, hand on heart, if you had the ability and the freedom to have your own business, would you have still chosen that despite? All right.
An entrepreneur's life is always interesting.
No,
There has to be some exciting moments.
So yeah, I would do it by myself. If I had an option to, I would start something on my own, because the ownership feeling that you get when
Right.
you make something, you'd never get it as a second generation promoter.
Freedom over all the infrastructure that is there. Sudhakar has already said that freedom is the choice thing for him. Thank you so much, Ashwin, Kairav, as well as Sudhakar, for joining us. And thank you so much to the audience for patiently listening in. Thank you.
Kairav, Ashwin, Sudhakar, Nisha, thank you very, very much. It's now time to move on to our second set of awards. May I welcome Anil Kaushal, Head of Lupin Life, and Avinash Kaul, CEO Network 18 and MD AETN, to give away the awards. This husband-wife duo has built one of the most valued D2C brands out of India. Building a business on the principle of frugality and finding a niche in the crowded baby care market has been instrumental to their success. Please put your hands together for our next Tycoons of tomorrow, the co-founders of Mama Earth, Varun and Ghazal Alag. Congratulations. He is the first member of the 4th generation of the Parekh family to join the family business. And he comes with a mission to make the Neel Kamal, the popular household brand Neel Kamal, sustainable to meet the challenges of a warming planet. Congratulations, Mihir Parekh, Executive Director at Neel Kamal. May I please welcome on stage Mihir Parekh's parents, Hiten Parekh, the Managing Director of Neel Kamal, and Smriti Parekh, to accept the award on his behalf. Mihir is currently pursuing an MBA in the US. Congratulations. Now, this new age tycoon is making higher education accessible to millions while creating a valuable business. Ashwin Damera's eruditus is an outlier among Indian edtech biggies that are either stagnating or witnessing degrowth after the pandemic boom. Please welcome with a big round of applause Ashwin Damera, founder Eruditus. Congratulations, Ashwin. Now, Abhinav Asthana's Postman brings world-class software products to customers and is putting India on the global tech map. Ushering in the era of API-first software, Asthana believes no amount of funding can make up for your lack of understanding of a customer's pain point. Words to live by for all entrepreneurs everywhere. I'd like to invite Monica Gunalan, Head of People Ops, APAC Postman, to accept the award on Abhinav's behalf. Gaurav Kumar is known for successfully creating and running not one, not two, but 3 startups. His startup Hubi, previously known as Cred Avenue, is enabling credit for India's small and medium enterprises that often find it difficult to raise debt. I'd like to request Dhaval Vikamse from Hubi to accept the award on his behalf. So thank you very much, Anil, Avinash, thank you so much for joining us. And here's something that's going to be very interesting, our next discussion. So OTT got a massive push during the pandemic. We've seen new talent and contemporaries break the boundaries of entertainment, creativity, and content to find unparalleled fame. OTT then is the great leveler. Our first panelist to discuss how OTT is redefining entertainment, talent, and stardom is our tycoon of tomorrow, Mithila Palkar. Please do join us on stage, Mithila. Please. Okay, next up. She's played the sweet but conniving Beena in Mirzapur and the shy but sharp rookie cop Neeti Singh in Delhi Crime. Please welcome on stage Rasika Dugal. Okay, and what can I say to introduce our third panelist except Harshad Mehta, Padharo? Please welcome Prateek Gandhi. And may I also invite Kunal Purandare, Editor Desk, Forbes India, to moderate this session.
Good actors don't stay hidden for too long. At the same time, they need the right platform and opportunity to showcase their work to a large number of people. We have with us three actors, Prateek Gandhi, Rasika Dugal, and Mithila Palkar, who have done some fabulous work across mediums. But it's the digital space that really shot them into the limelight. Before I speak broadly about OTT versus cinema and content, I would like to ask you all about that one performance that has had the greatest impact on your careers. I'll start with you, Prateek. Scam 1992 was undoubtedly the turning point of your career. Your performance was hailed by one and all. How has life changed after Scam 1992? And before I allow you to answer that, I mean, it's not been an overnight success. I mean, you worked for 15 years and had a strong foundation in theater as well as Gujarati films. So it must not have been easy.
Yeah, in fact, so with your first line that you started, that good actors cannot be hidden for too long. So either I was not a good actor earlier for 15 years before Scam came in my life. But yeah, so Scam changed my life downside up. I keep saying that I have two phases in my life, pre-Scam and post-Scam. So Scam changes a lot of lives all across the world, and it changed mine for good. And that's the reason that I'm here and having this discussion with you all. So it put me on national, international level suddenly. And whatever that I was doing on stage or in regional cinema had a little and a very limited reach. And suddenly Scam came and the whole world noticed me. So even my 7-year daughter, she kept asking me that you have been acting since a long time. And why is now that people wants to take photograph with you? What is it? What changed? And I didn't have answer to that. The only answer is that I scammed them.
Rasika, you've done a lot of work in films, the likes of Kiss Sakshay before you did Mirzapur. But your feisty, bold, fearless portrayal of Beena Tripathi in the crime thriller took everyone by surprise because it's completely opposite of what you are. Do you believe that the role did a lot more for your career than any of your other work?
It did, and it never ceases to surprise me, the kind of following that the show has. I'm still sort of taken aback by the kind of manic following that Mirzapur has. It completely was a new experience for me, and I'm afraid that I'm getting addicted to it. But before that, like you said, I'd done many independent films and films that I was very proud of, films that were made with a lot of passion and love and with really preserving everybody's creativity during the process of filming. The film that I'm talking about is Kissa, and that film had only released only in 2 theaters in 2015 in Bombay, and that was very disappointing to me. And I remember pre-Mirzapur days, I used to walk around whenever I would go for a meeting. I would carry a DVD of Kissa with me and say, you know, please watch my little indie film. And yeah, so that was the kind of experiences that I was having before Mirzapur. I had never had access to the kind of audience that that show has. So yes, that changed many things for me.
Mithila, you're literally a new age star born on the internet. Internet was very new when you started. The Cup song that you did of the Marathi hit, Hi Chale Turu Turu, became a rage. I mean, it has over 7 million views now. And plus, yeah. Plus, you have the popular Little Things, which is being spoken about even today. Do you believe, which of these two do you think made a difference to your career and sort of helped you gain that acceptance, not only from the audience, but also from your fraternity?
I would definitely want to say the Cup song first and Little Things next, because the Cup song, I think, put me on the map. Fortunately or unfortunately, as a singer and a YouTuber, and I was happy to just be known by people at that point in time. And of course, Little Things, even today, we've finished the show, like we had our finale show season last year, released last year. But it still continues to be something that has reached across the globe, and it is all thanks to the internet. So yeah, I think I was born here. So I don't know any better.
Rasika, when you were studying at FTII, you did a diploma in acting. You said that you were surprised to know that people came there to become stars. Of course, the time was different, but do you think OTT has changed the definition of stardom?
It definitely has given opportunity for more people to be called stars, if I may say so. And it's not that, and it still I think remains a democratic setup where every month there is a new star is born, you know. It's not that there are these 8 people who got these 4 shows 5 years back and they're the ones who keep getting work again and again. Every month there's a new show, there are new actors, there are new stars, so to say. So in that sense, I think it's made a lot of things more democratic than it used to be. And I'm very grateful for that. I keep worrying that that's going to change. And everybody keeps whispering and murmuring that that's changing every month. But so far it hasn't.
Prateek, you said your stint in theatre helped you understand the grammar of acting, and you still go back to theatre. You did a play recently. You have an OTT release, a film which released recently as well. You said it took time for mainstream acceptance, but you wouldn't have it in any other way because that was a learning curve of sorts. Now you're in a position where you can say no to a lot of things, citing, you know, you're flooded with offers. So much has changed in all these years. What is the difference that you see in the industry?
The biggest difference with OTT coming in is that it broke the so-called equation or the standard formula. Because I always believed that we as entertainers, as actors, as creators are in a business of experiments. So normally formulas are derived after the experiment is success. If it is not a successful experiment, you don't derive formula out of it. So in a business of experiment, how can you go by formula is the constant question that I would discuss with all my colleagues also. So theatre gave me that freedom for the longest years in my life. Because we would experiment with all the different subjects and different setups also. So the kind of theatre that I kept doing for almost 15 years was always called experimental theatre. And in fact, mainstream theatre, people never considered it as theatre also. So that already prepared me for these kind of rejections in mainstream. And with OTT, because it broke the barrier of a set formula or a set kind of a format, it gave birth to different kind of storytelling. And I have always believed that there was always an audience. It is just that we could never reach to that audience. Now with OTT and internet, we are reaching out to those people, those who like to watch these kind of stuff. So it's a win-win situation, even for the audience, for the makers, for actors, everybody.
Mithila, you've been language and medium agnostic. Is that the advantage that an actor today has? I mean, you don't really need to restrict yourself to one particular medium to grow or to show your talent or your work?
100%, 100%. And in fact, every time I do something new, I'm hungrier for more. I just recently did a Telugu film and I'm like, okay, great. Now I want to do a Tamil film, a Malayalam film. And the fact that these platforms are as accessible as they are, to add to what both of them said is so right. Like Prateek said that I think we are not telling stories of heroes and heroines anymore. We are telling stories about people, which makes a lot of actors like us get the opportunities that we are getting today. And so yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's the internet is an accessible platform, which makes it easy to reach also as far as you do when you're on the internet and access as many things as you can.
So you said it's not about heroes and heroines anymore, it's about people. Which is why I think unlike movies where you need a star to justify a budget, or maybe that's the excuse they use to sign a big name, you know, because you need an opening. Is that the reason why now the casting on OTT is defined more by the script rather than anything else? Do you agree? You all can take turns and answer.
So I feel that with OTT, what is happening is that first the definition of hero is changed. The one who is taking the story forward becomes a hero, and there are like, in the professional world that we keep hearing, situational leadership. In the long formats, we see those situational heroes. In first 2-3 episodes of a series, there is one person who's leading the story forward, so he becomes hero, and suddenly he dies. So a new hero comes in, and then he takes the story forward. Apart from that, it doesn't have a pressure to perform in first 3 days, once it releases. Because mostly on first 3 days, the people who go and watch the film, they are going on the anticipation. And that anticipation comes from the faces involved, from the names involved, and maybe some subject line which comes across to you as an audience from the trailer, which excites you. After that first 3 days, what comes out is the real word of mouth. And that's when the turnout is seen. So that's the real test of the film or a product. Whereas in OTT, right from the first day, it is given to thousands of people at the same time, and they can watch it on their convenient time, but there is no pressure to perform on first 3 days. So that is also opening up a lot of doors for the experiments.
Would you all want to chip in?
I agree with him 100%. I feel like that is my favorite part about being on the OTT. I didn't realize that until like I did a film in between. I was like, oh my God, everybody's worrying about how much it's going to make and how many people are going to actually go watch the film and going to buy the tickets. When you're on the internet, it's out there, and then it's just there to be accessed by people at their convenience.
Rasika?
I think good content was always around, and it's just that distribution was always a bottleneck. So even the independent films that I had done earlier, there were enough people who were producing smaller content-driven films at that time, because the cost of production had gone down significantly. Things had gone from film to digital, so people were able to make a film even if they didn't have massive budgets. A film like Bheja Fry had done very well, so there was incentive for other people to sort of experiment with the 1 crore film at that time. So there were a lot of small production houses that came up and made some very interesting content, but the bottleneck always remained distribution. I think the distribution networks were still sort of risk averse, and they would always say, no, we don't have an audience for such kind of content. But the OTT has broken that myth, and therefore I think the content was always around. It's just that the success of good content on OTT platforms is proof of the fact that the audiences were always versatile and ready for a lot. It's just that we were not being able to reach them.
Yeah, prior to the filming of Manto, you said you were almost about to sign some 5 films, and the producers said you weren't saleable enough and you missed out on those films. Of course, that won't be happening right now. I think OTT is giving that kind of an opportunity for raw and untapped talent, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that, I believe that, and I've even experienced it. So with my first film, Bhavai, which got released after COVID, after Scam, it was shot before Scam. And in fact, while shooting for that film, I was approached for Scam and I auditioned and I got selected. So that was my first Hindi film as a central protagonist. He was finding it too difficult to sell the film. And while he asked me to do the film, my first question to him is that I am more than willing to do the film, but you first check whether you want to do this with me or no, because I understand it will be difficult for you to sell the film. And that's what happened after the film. So he could not release the film for 2 years after making a film. After Scam came, suddenly things changed. It was a different perspective. And then he could release the film. So this is a regular phenomenon.
Nawazuddin Siddiqui had said in one of his interviews that, OTT platforms are becoming a dumping ground now. It's just about quantity over quality. Do you think quality is going to suffer with so many OTT platforms coming up? And
I don't know if it's because of the number of OTT platforms coming up. It's just that sometimes quality does suffer when you're asked to churn out content too quickly. I mean, we've seen that with subsequent seasons, for example, and I always try as much as I can to control that in the ones that I work with, that we kind of maintain the integrity of the first season creatively, at least. And that is always the attempt. But yes, he's right. There's the good and bad here also. It's not like everything coming on the OTT space is good. There's a lot of mediocre stuff. But there seems to be room for everything. There seems to be an audience for everything. There seems to be people who can create different kinds of things. And that's what's exciting to me about this space.
The pandemic accelerated certain things when it came to OTT. Obviously, the viewing patterns changed. Mithila, do you think it will remain the same even now? Because the thing was that when theaters will reopen, everyone will go back to the theaters. But we've seen this year has not been that great for the movies. So many of them haven't done well. Do you see any shift in viewing patterns in today's world?
The thing is that there is an audience for everything, and we all want to go to the movies and watch the movies on the big screen as well. In fact, I feel like, it's becoming easier to access. A lot of people are like, okay, ye to aa jayega on the OTT and we'll watch it then. But I watched a film recently called Sita Ramam, and I couldn't catch it in the theater. It's not because I was lazy to go. By the time I came back, it wasn't in the theater. And then I said, no, I want to watch this film, and I watched it, and I felt bad about having watched it on my television screen. So there are films that are meant for the bigger screen, and there are things that are meant to, like, that are quick bites, or that are better seen or watched or enjoyed on the internet in a smaller space. So I feel like it's an ecosystem, and it will balance itself out. I don't think it will be that lopsided anymore now that the world has opened up.
Pratik, when you were trying to break through, you said, you found yourself a misfit as far as television was concerned, because you saw all those fair-skinned people with bulging biceps over there, and you thought, this is not for me. But obviously things have changed so much, and you have arrived, I mean, really. And it's not just about you, but all of you. Do you all believe you all have arrived, and what's the plan ahead?
Yeah, so I mean, the more I'm being asked this question, I feel that I've arrived. Because earlier nobody asked me. But the feeling of arrived comes when the makers are excited to work with you, when you are in the brains of the writers, when the director is visualizing you with the script. So that's the best place for an actor to be in. And that's when you feel confident that now I'm not under the pressure to perform. I can go beyond and explore the character, even in the deeper sense. So that is a very comfortable position.
Rasika and Mithila?
I start believing I've arrived, and then one rejection happens, and I'm like, hey.
That keeps you grounded.
Welcome to the world.
Mithila?
Yes, I don't think of it as that really, because I feel like I think we were all riding the wave of the internet revolution as it was rising. So I have just been going with the flow. So I don't know, I have not asked myself this question of have I arrived? Maybe I have.
That's a mark of somebody who has arrived, who doesn't ask that question.
But I've been enjoying what it is, what the internet has to offer, what the entertainment industry today has to offer. And like we've all been saying, that the narratives have changed, the stories have become different. It's not, the definitions have changed. So it's just a very exciting time to be part of the entertainment industry, in my opinion.
Well, all of you all are known as good actors, fabulous actors. So I think you all can safely say that you all have arrived. Thank you so much. This has been an absolutely enriching and insightful conversation. We could go on and on, but unfortunately we don't have time. Thank you so much once again for your time. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Rasika, Pratik, Kunal, Mithila, thank you very, very much. May I please invite back on stage Avinash Kaul along with Commercify's Sudhakar Adapa to present the next Tycoons of Tomorrow Award, followed by the Forbes India Icon of Excellence recognitions. Okay, from hearables to wearables, this duo has built India's biggest homegrown consumer electronics brand. Their boat is smooth sailing. No points for guessing our next tycoons, Aman Gupta and Samir Mehta, the co-founders of Boat. May I please invite on stage Samir Mehta to accept the award for this formidable co-founder duo. Congratulations. And now let's get in the icons of excellence. She's resilient, consistent, and a personification of the icon of excellence, Rasika Dogal. And for straddling theatre, cinema, and OTT, Pratik Gandhi. Congratulations. Sudhakar, Avinash, thank you very much for doing the honors. And that brings us to the end of the second edition of Tycoons of Tomorrow, presented by NEOM and powered by Reliance Industries. I'd like to thank NEOM, Reliance Industries, driving partner, Volkswagen India, banking partner, HSBC, health partner, B1, associate partner, Commercify, in association with CNBC TV 18. And a big thank you to all of you, our wonderful audience, for being here with us. And congratulations once again to all the winners. But before we let you go, if I can request all the winners to please once again join us on stage for a group photo. If I can request all the winners to please join us on stage. Do you want to run and get it? Can we also have the representatives here from NEOM, Reliance Industries, Volkswagen India, HSBC, B1, and Commerzify to please join us on stage? Everyone's taking pictures, so we have no one clapping, but don't worry. We're all very happy. Okay, thank you so much. That's all from us at Forbes India. And most importantly, the bar is now open. Good night and see you again soon.
Forbes India, Tycoons of Tomorrow, presented by NEOM.